Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's scary that it can be put into anything, and we can't even see it or notice it.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 10.
Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 10. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. On this Saturday night, we've had some thunderstorms out there. A lot of them really in the last few hours around the Golden Triangle, Monroe, Chickasaw County, stretching back toward Oktibbeha, Winston, Webster counties. A lot of folks have seen these storms. Luckily, no severe weather reports coming in. Decent number of weather pictures. We'll show you a few of those coming up in a couple of minutes. But outside this evening, storms do continue for a few locations. And I do think into the weekend we'll keep the remainder of this weekend, even in next week, some chances for rainfall, but I think gradually become a little bit more limited as they become somewhat more spotty. Like today, a lot of folks didn't see hardly anything in the rain gauge there. I think significant heat might become the bigger story next week, with heat indices in excess of 110 for some spots. And that's the thing, if we can shut off the rainfall, unfortunately that means we turn up the heat that extra notch. It has been the one thing providing that rain cooled air that from time to time has limited just how extreme those temperatures are. Outside this evening in Tupelo, looking south, temperature coming in 81 degrees, feels like 86. Of course, that dew point high, that measure there, you might not be able to quite read it, at 73. Definitely has a soupy feel to it, and that's despite the south winds bringing in a little bit cooler air because of some of the thunderstorms are a lot more prevalent down to the south tonight. Locations such as Macon definitely impacting. You can see it on the temperature there, only 76 degrees at this instance. So rain cooled to that value at this time as we look outside, with just cloudiest, but not much in the way of precipitation. In the corner, you can kind of see that there, as most of what's left is gone, but still a few lightning strikes showing up in some of the clouds there. Similar story also in 8 to 10 down in Oktibbeha County. We expect both those spots where we had the heavier rainfall. If we can keep that wind calm like it is in 8 to 10, there's a better chance for us to see some patchy fog for early tomorrow morning. So rain coverage still around 10% or so by 11 p.m., maybe slightly higher than that. Though 2 o'clock in the morning, most of it is gone. We're 75 degrees at temperature, 73, 5 a.m., 8 a.m., about 78, and then 89 degrees as we head toward midday tomorrow. So heating things up. We do have this kind of lingering trough you see there kind of sticking around overhead. Honestly, it's the high pressure down here that's the bigger weather story. I'm going to change this over to our satellite perspective. One that I apparently like to show a lot recently is the water vapor here. It gives us kind of an idea of the overall goings on of the weather forecast. You have the spin out here, this low pressure center back out into the Atlantic. But then generally speaking, you have a very large area where the winds are in a clockwise fashion, right? You see all of these kind of all going in that direction, but this is what we call a surface high right there, right? The mid-level ridge is kind of up here, and there's still some stuff going on behind that. Why is that important at all? Well, this big thing is what is heading back toward the west, and this is the thing that largely will end up, I've got a lot of stuff going on there, but this will end up being the thing back there that kind of it starts to eliminate some of the rain chances in the next few days. It's also the thing that's deflecting the most recent or the closest front and keeping it away from us, which is why we do not anticipate having any benefit as far as that is concerned. No real drop in temperatures going forward. Looking latest here at Mississippi Live Weather Radar, we do have some thunderstorms. We've had some of those through the evening. As we bring it to the latest scans here for a moment, most of those are moved out to Pickens, Lamar County. I mean, this is just moderate rainfall there showing up for locations back out toward Lowndes County at this time. So we're really kind of past the peak. I will say we do have 1 or 2 storms. We were talking about those earlier this evening. Potential for some of these up there near the Tennessee state line. Most of those have stayed just a little north of the Tennessee state line, but not impossible that a couple of those get down closer. We'll track those here in a couple of minutes in a little more detail. Also watching a few there back to the west of Batesville. That one actually does have some movement to it. Not all of these are organized enough for that. So we kind of track that one near Sardis. We'll say about 25 to maybe 30 miles per hour there. We get that there. Terza at about 1032. Hideaway Hills 1039, La Pesda there coming in about 1047, assuming that continues. And just maybe a couple rumbles with that. More than anything else, not expecting a whole lot of activity. So here's a look at Futurecast. I think it's doing a pretty decent job on where it's depicting some of those showers. Still a little heavier than reality. But as that moves out, notice we don't see much overnight. Between now and 3 o'clock in the morning, most of that activity up north stays north. Looking at the latest batch here. I mean, obviously, the big bad weather is all with this stuff back out there into Oklahoma and Texas. That is largely not the batch that we will see here in the Magnolia State. Again, we're waiting that moisture start coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. And again, that could ignite with some thunderstorms, mainly back in Louisiana for tomorrow, and some chances to start getting closer to the Mississippi Delta as those kind of waves move toward us. But again, northwest Mississippi, 1, 2, 3 o'clock, definitely closer to the primary impact zone. So in the morning, 73 to start, 83 by 9 a.m. We're 90 by noontime. And rain chances there, as you can see, we're about 30% coverage, maybe up to 40% locations back to the west of us. I think, though, across most of Mississippi, especially the northern part of the state, it's a lot more spotty than it was last week. In some ways similar in coverage to what we had today. And those low 90s probably feeling over 100 degrees. Coming up here in 60 seconds, that is one of the things that we are looking at in more detail, are those heat indices. We're also checking out some of your weather pictures this evening as Mississippi Live Weather at 10 continues right after this.
You need some help?
Your tow chains are a little loose. Could spark a wildfire. I could show you how to secure them properly if you'd like.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Anytime. You should check out SmokeyBear.com. They've got a bunch of tips on wildfire prevention.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Dijimos que nunca romperíamos la regla de los 3 segundos. Nunca haríamos esto. Y nunca nos convertiríamos en una mamá con minivan. Como padres decimos nunca sobre muchas cosas, pero los nunca a veces suceden. Así que, aunque digas que nunca dejarías a tu hijo en un auto caliente, es algo que puede suceder. Antes de alejarte del auto, siempre para, mira, cierra.
Right now, from the Mississippi Live Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobheim.
Well, the roadways remain wet this evening in Columbus. Obviously very shiny because the rainfall still ongoing at this instant. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon, and of course you're watching Mississippi Live Weather at 10 on this Saturday night. 73 degrees current temperature in Columbus. Of course, rain cooled to that value. Humidity 100%. Of course, when it's raining, all the moisture has saturated the atmosphere, so that's not a shock that that's the case. But as we kind of look upstream there, back for locations in around Caledonia, again, we're higher up on the tower there, looking back into some of these showers. And again, not a lot in the way of lightning, as there's just a lot of weakening phase on those. 74 temperature there as well at this instant. Feels like 72. Ooh, for a change. Actually feels a little bit lower than the actual temperature. Not that I think a lot of folks are probably complaining about that. As we bring this back to latest radar here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, and we'll put this loop on here we'll change this to the last hour and kind of put that into play. You can see kind of the expansion. I mean, 2 hours ago or an hour ago or so, we certainly had a lot more of the heavier rainfall as it moved through. Rainfall amounts have not been excessive on this, but we have seen some decent rainfall over the last 3 hours. As you'll note here in some spots with rainfall totals, we have some of the darker greens there showing up in the neighborhood of about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Even a few spots we're estimating closer to 1.5 inches to 2 inches down here around Brooksville. That's just the thing to keep in mind. We talk about rainfall totals, rainfall potential, that obviously anytime we're talking about thunderstorms, that makes it to where a kind of evenly dispersed map becomes a lot less evenly dispersed. Back here over on the regular rainfall mode of Mississippi Live Weather Radar, some of our heaviest storms still ongoing for locations back out into Pickens County, Alabama, putting this back into motion there. Again, that rain cooled air, the edge of that green line, that outflow boundary back there to the east. I mean, still a few lightning strikes, Pioneer, Kirk, and Gordo, but we're past really the peak on that as well. Same thing up here going on from Millport, locations up into Lamar County, up towards Solingent. And you can see that rain cooled air. It's gotten far enough in advance that this is falling apart. There's just not enough moisture or lift. There's just not enough energy, fuel in the atmosphere. That's the word I'm looking for out here ahead, that as this lifts it to keep the thunderstorms going, despite the fact there's actually something trying to do it. The atmosphere has stabilized as we lost the heat of the day. Same thing going up here, South Tiller, back for the Fulton area at this time. I mentioned that one thunderstorm that we are still tracking, kind of, I say thunderstorm, let's not over-exaggerate this here. I show 0 lightning strikes on this. But the one we are watching back here to the west of the Batesville area, tracking that northeast, I'll give this a speed of about 25 miles per hour, moving more towards Sardis there. So we show Sardis about 1042. Let's check out our camera there in Batesville. And as we kind of look at that one, let's see if we catch maybe a cloud-to-cloud strikes up there in the clouds. Of course, just showing the clouds. And that's about it. 78 the temperature at this time, adding a couple degrees for that feels like temperature. That's more normal than that what we had down there in Caledonia. Very rarely are we subtracting anything in this sort of situation. So we check out some of your weather pictures this evening. Stephanie and Fulton with kind of a cool one here. Of course, looking into the rainfall from one of those storms. And this is obviously the rainfall. The fuzziness, of course, made up by the raindrops as they fall through that. And the rainbow, just actually, believe it or not, kind of a double rainbow there. That has to do with the refraction of the light. The light, anytime you're going to see a rainbow, the light's going to be behind you like this, right? And so it's behind you, it hits those raindrops, and then it changes the angle of that light when it comes back toward you. So all this white light you see here, that's light that's being reflected back toward you. But there just happens to be just the right angle, and that's where the rainbow shows up, where that light is reflected, and that's where you get that spreading of the colors, that prismatic effect that you get. Appreciate Stephanie for sending in that shot there. Don in the Starkville area at Harvey's talking about just how it was rough with the rain that fell there as it may move through. Yeah, there was certainly a lot of heavy rainfall, in some cases nearly blinding rainfall. Make sure to have that Mississippi Live Weather app. You can send in those pictures of obviously the interactive radar, good to help track those. And those alerts, they kind of work not just for your location. If you're watching the kids, they're off someplace else, you could put in your location or their location, and it'll tell you which one it's pinging you for. So, as kids go back to school, I always automatically think if my kids were in college, I'd have a pin wherever they are, and I'd know when something was going on because, they don't always pay good attention, do they? As far as that is concerned there. Rain chances next few days, we're going to be about 30%, we'll say, for both your Sunday and Monday, somewhat more limited Tuesday and Wednesday. But we don't have necessarily extremely good rain chances over the course of the next 7 days. They don't completely go away. The closest to that, I really could have made an argument to maybe take this down a little bit more for Tuesday, but just considering the amount of rain we've had so far this year, I'm waiting for Mother Nature to prove me wrong on that, because every time we try to go completely dry, they pop up. So we're going to play it the opposite direction this time around. We'll see how that works out. From 75 in the morning, we're 90 by noontime and 92 for tomorrow afternoon under what should be some partly cloudy skies. We will be popping up some thunderstorms, and that 92 will be feeling like it's closer to 100 degrees from many locations. Here's Futurecast. And again, it does show those showers that we have out there now falling apart, eroding away as they move to the east. And most of us spending the good chunk of the overnight period likely dry with some cloud cover. Yes. And the one thing the Futurecast here doesn't do a great job of is depicting that fog. It's not going to be everywhere, but we're going to have some patches of that out there for tomorrow morning. We show a few there around Columbus, West Point. I would say this zone here where we had some of the heavier rainfall amounts today, back from West Point to Starkville to Louisville to perhaps down there, Ackerman and Kosciuszko, probably most likely locations to see some of that. You're showing up at about 72 for that low in Louisville, 71 degrees Kosciuszko, 72 for Grenada and Houston, about 70 degrees in Red Bay and Hamilton, Alabama. Futurecast, again, dry through 7:30, 8, 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. But as we head closer to noontime, watch out here near the Arkansas state line, more showers and thunderstorms start popping up. And again, the overall pattern, if you missed this off the top, it's somewhat depicted here fairly well. We have this ridge of high pressure down here in the Gulf. But the reality is that there's kind of a mid-level ridge that's sitting up here a little farther north. And the combination of those two things, where they kind of overlap the best, that's why we have lesser rainfall chances down closer to the coast. But that also, again, you get flow that's in a clockwise fashion around one of these, right? And so what that does is that just pretty much opens up the Gulf of Mexico to start having some moisture to kind of come back in. And so locations kind of on the far west side of that, like what we're seeing back out there in Louisiana, are most likely to probably see some rainfall out of this kind of setup. So that's why those locations are most likely to see some of that for tomorrow on kind of the wider scale here. We show back there closer to, say, Vicksburg and Natchez, better rain chances of what we have here in the northern part of the state. As they kind of move in from the south and west, again, very spotty in North Mississippi, right? Not a ton of activity, a greater number of those down south. As we progress toward 4:35, 6 o'clock, we do continue to show, again, some pop-up showers and storms. But you'll note here the majority of us probably don't have much out there with one or two that are heavier closer to Eupora, back toward Kosciuszko, and the few up there closer to Tishomingo County. Again, I don't want to get too specific on some of these because I expect the positioning, again, these are pop-up storms. They're going to be a little different than what models are indicating. But the big takeaway is that coverage more limited than it was much of last week, and to a certain extent more limited than it was today. 94 high temperature Grenada, 93 Water Valley. We're 90 Red Bay, 92 degrees in Hamilton, Alabama, and 94 there in Grenada, as I mentioned there, and about 95 in Greenwood. But those spots, yeah, this is the thing. If we're 105 and greater for the heat index, that qualifies for a heat advisory. I don't know that we're quite there. We're right on the edge. Either way, take it seriously, be safe, be smart, and, you know, obviously it's going to be pretty hot out there on your Sunday. As we head to your Sunday night, our latest look here at Futurecast, again, some pop-up showers still possibly there, Holly Springs or so down toward Columbus, but much more mist than hit, as is what we typically expect tonight, as is going to be the case, obviously, for tonight as well. Monday, starting off again with a little bit of patchy fog in some spots, but in general, our winds out of a southwesterly direction. And here's the thing about southwest winds. That's typically a direction that does not bring us as much rainfall. But Futurecast here, you will note, does try to depict, and again, we're looking specifically at our strike model here, a greater quantity of storms than maybe some other projections. So by noontime, 1 or 2 thunderstorms popping up, not many of them out there. Greater chance we go toward 2, 3 o'clock. And even this version of Futurecast on the strike model has less storms than what we had depicted at 6 o'clock. So we watch trends closely, and that is a downward trend on the overall coverage. That means hopefully, well, I don't know. Again, people are kind of split on whether or not we want the rainfall. It will be probably a lesser quantity than what we had certainly last week to begin this upcoming work week. And again, on the wider shot there, again, those storms, you can see like a little spin, more organized activity back out toward Oklahoma. For us, diminishing into your Monday night. Another wave trying to move toward us from the east, but we're just kind of stuck on the driest portion of this high pressure center with high temperatures expected to be mid-90s, about 94 degrees in Grenada, 95 Greenwood. We're at 92 Oxford, 95 Houston, and 94 for both Columbus and Starkville on your Monday. That future heat index, everybody above 100, a few locations like Clarksdale above 106. I think this could be maybe just a little bit conservative, especially if you assume that we have a lesser quantity of storms. If that's the case, expect this to be 105 or greater, unfortunately, because I know that's not a number a lot of folks want to hear. So hour-by-hour forecast, reverting back to Sunday. Again, rain chances peaking in the afternoon to early evening out there. 30% is probably overdoing it based on the latest version of our Futurecast model, but I think most of us can probably drive. The bigger number is that 94-degree high temperature, which feels like probably 100 to 105 degrees. So significant enough to take seriously. As we look at that 7-day forecast, we're 30% on that rain coverage for Monday, 20% by Tuesday and Wednesday. I could have gone almost completely dry on Tuesday. I just didn't, just because so often this year, but especially this kind of warm season, anytime we're like, okay, we can finally remove rain chances, we just can't. And so I'm leaving a greater chance in there as a result because odds are it's probably going to verify. By Wednesday, again, 20% and greater chances, again, it's still spotty in nature as we head toward the latter part of next week. Not a high confidence forecast by then because, again, we still have this ridge of high pressure overhead. We're stuck in this pattern, and so we're just bubbling up storms every day. It's reasonable to assume that we'll probably do a decent amount of that as well. Speaking to that point, I'll go back to analysis mode here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. And rather than specifically looking at the radar portion of this, I want to look at some additional data. There's lots and lots of data that we kind of can look at here as well. One thing I just want to kind of emphasize as far as that's concerned is severe weather risk. None of that for tonight, as the storms are obviously gone and we're not concerned with that continuing. Tomorrow, as well as Monday, no significant severe weather risks as well. As we look at the week ahead, though, we do anticipate when we talk about rainfall that there's probably not as many significant rainfall chances or rainfall issues as well. We look at the excessive rainfall flash flood threat. You can see we did have a limited risk for today, we call marginal. That shifts away for tomorrow, as you can see also for your Monday. So again, a sign that drier weather is the story. And when we look at basically and again, this is the rough accumulated rainfall totals over the next 7 days. This always misses the higher amounts, but this works for a good average. You can see that you check out our scale here. We don't really have anybody in the northern part here of Mississippi in that 2-inch range, just because it's just not the way this pattern is likely shaping up. The first 2 to 3 days of that, as you can see, where we expect to have the greatest quantity, meaning a good chunk of that probably falls within the next couple of days. But you look at the extended there, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, or say Thursday to Friday, not very much. So even by the latter part of the next week, when we look at that 7-day forecast, that's one of the things that, again, really kind of is a sign of the more limited amounts of precipitation there. So that's kind of what we're watching here on Mississippi Live Weather this evening. Appreciate Aberdeen and so many of you for checking in as I'm looking at our chat there. Appreciate all the weather watchers that have been sending in their pictures. We love to share those. We get so many great ones each evening. If I did a better job of getting in here, I switched to this place from the home studio kind of at the last second, just because I was still having some of those laggy issues. I was like, let's not play with that tonight. So I did not get as many weather pictures in there as I probably should have. So I apologize for that. We'll try to do a better job of that going forward. But we appreciate so many of those that you are submitting to us and sharing with us. And of course, reminder that the Roku app is live. And if you know somebody or yourself or a family member that tends to use that platform, then obviously we are excited to offer that as a free app on there. But you'll want to make sure to search Mississippi Live. If you search those two words, it'll get you to the right Roku app. Another thing I want to mention, we've been doing push alerts, and that's the terminology for the thing where all of a sudden your phone goes blip and lets you know that, hey, the newscast is on. One of the ways we're going to be structuring that going forward, there's a couple different types of push alerts that you can enable and disable on your phone. One of those is message from trained personnel. We're going to, I think, use that one to let you know newscasts, more administrative sort of things. And when we have specific weather things, there's kind of a weather one that we can tag on to as well. So I think that's the way we'll probably try to structure that going forward. So just kind of a heads up on at least my thinking of the way I'm planning on approaching that there. Yeah, someone mentioning getting hotter. That's one of the big stories here. Just kind of looking back here on our chat, and I know I'm kind of covering up my name on the name key there, just to see everybody. Hopefully everybody's doing all right, from Lamar County there to Amory to Tupelo this evening, new site, Pontotoc. Just appreciate y'all. Appreciate Jerry for becoming a weather watcher level there on the YouTube. But yeah, I think with that in mind, we'll probably wrap things up for Mississippi Live Weather here at 10 p.m. Our next live broadcast will be tomorrow at 6 p.m. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynard will be back for that as well. If necessary, we do from time to time have to cover some stronger storms. We had some this evening, did not reach that significant damage or life-threatening level. I know a lot of times heavy rainfall, a lot of lightning, you're like, what's up? That's not necessarily what we're going to be doing cut-ins for. It'll be, again, what we believe to be damaging or certainly deadly weather will obviously be the case. From time to time, we will adjust things. And again, this is a work in progress. We appreciate your patience, but thank you for joining us this evening for Mississippi Live Weather at 10. Oh, forgot about the app. There you're. Show this one every night. And again, you want to make sure to scan those QR codes. If you know somebody that maybe hasn't checked in, it is that time of year where certainly it is more hot than it is dangerous. Make sure they download the app. And of course, keep it here for the latest.
When people are fed, futures are nourished. They can connect with the world around them, unlock endless possibilities, and thrive. Join the movement to end hunger. Volunteer. Advocate. Donate. Go to feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.